You might hear in the news about crazy violent events happening around the world, and you might wonder how people could be so brutal to each other in this day and age. With all the progress we have made in the development of human rights, free speech, free practice of religion, and compassion for one another. Imagine how it was 1,000 years ago during Middle Ages, when people hung and burned women simply because they thought they were witches. Or 2 millennia ago, when they brutally crucified Jesus Christ for wanting to help other people. How about 600 years before even Jesus Christ was born? What kind of savagery do you think was commonplace in the ancient world? How would you think victors would treat the defeated commanders and captive soldiers? How about women and children of the captured cities of the enemy? Would they be allowed to follow their own traditions and to practice their own religion? What if we told you there was once a king who not only spared the lives of defeated soldiers and rivals, but also treated civilians of their cities with respect, allowing them to practice their own religion with peace and comfort? There was once a mighty and fair king who was called Cyrus, meaning like the sun. He was born in 600 BC as the Prince of Persia, in a very famous royal family. His great-great-grandfather was Achaemenes, who was also a fair king and the figurehead of the Achaemenid dynasty, ruling in the central south part of present-day Iran. Cyrus learned from his fathers and forefathers that the first rule of governance is to be liked by the people you are leading. He also learned that one's knowledge of the world is limited to what he can see, and if you want to grow and make allies, you need to start by learning from their strengths, and welcome their good ideas to your thinking. This way, you don't have to force people to act the way you want, but rather people choose willingly to be your ally. Applying the same principles, he managed to defeat Persia's biggest rival at the time, who was neighboring northern empire, the Medes. The Median army was larger in size, but many Median military commanders defected the rule of Astyages, the king of Media, and joined Persian army. Cyrus defeated the Medes in 550 BC and captured their capital, Ecbatana. After the battle, Cyrus spared Astyages' life and reassigned his governors to different positions, in a very smooth transition of power from the Medes to Persians. Once the conquest was final, Cyrus unified the Persian Empire into a strong country, which appeared to be a threat to neighboring Lydia and Babylonia. Cyrus launched 2 consecutive military campaigns against these 2 neighbors, and defeated both enemies so that he can expand Persian Empire as far as Balkans in present-day Europe. He did not get the chance to further conquer new territories, but the army he left behind was so strong that his descendants Cambyses, Darius and Xerxes easily defeated the Egyptians and the Greeks, and created the biggest empire the world had ever seen. After the conquest of Babylonia, Cyrus' army peacefully marched in the streets as they were being welcomed by the Babylonians. Cyrus then improved their lives by repatriating the displaced Jewish people, restoring templates and sanctuaries, allowing them to freely practice their religion. He then inscribed the first human right resolution on the now famous Cyrus Cylinder, which is kept in British Museum in London. Cyrus's legacy goes well beyond his time and territory in Persia or Iran. He is a symbol of pride for Iranians and messiah to Jewish people as he helped them resettle and rebuild Jerusalem. The Greek knew him as a role model and Babylonians as the liberator. Alexander the Great adored him to a point that he ordered to decorate the interior of his tomb, and John Adams and Thomas Jefferson advised his children and friends to learn from Cyrus' fairness and way of governance. A truly great king, whose legacy impacted generations even 2 millennia after his death.